resistance. At Black Mental Health Matters, we are redefining the narrative. There is immense strength in softness. There is courage in choosing to heal, in setting down the heavy lifting, and in claiming your peace as a non-negotiable right. We are building the infrastructure for impact. A collective space where the diaspora can find tools, community, and the unshakable permission to slow down, process, and thrive. Your healing is not a luxury, it is the foundation. Join the movement. Let's build a softer, stronger tomorrow together.
Hey everyone, and blessings. You are tuned in for another episode of Black Mental Health Matters. I am your host, Steph Jones, also known as Alec Calandra, and I have the privilege and honor of being with an amazing cadre of panelists. I'll let them introduce themselves. And today we're going to be talking about a super important topic. We're going to be talking about the mental health toll of advocacy, right? Where people who are another voice for other people and are always about justice, that takes a large toll on us. So we'll get into some of that conversation about creating good boundaries and what it looks like to balance our lives with advocacy. I'm going to let each guest introduce themselves. I know that I've heard other men on the episode say ladies first, so I'll do ladies first, and we'll go around like that. I'll start with Ariana, please.
Good morning, everyone. I am Ariana Johnson. I am a mental health social worker as well as a mental health advocate based out of Cleveland, Ohio. And I am happy to be amongst this, community of people and to engage in this conversation. So, hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kasherika Shaw. And I'm a mental health professional as well as a community wellness advocate. And I'm located in the Chicagoland area, and I'm excited to be here this morning.
I can't hear.
Oh, hear me? Sorry.
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Anthony, I'm just going by how. Thank you. I'm just going by how I see you on the screen. Anthony, please go right ahead.
Okay. Morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Anthony Carter. I am the founder of Plant Powered Brothers. It is a movement to ensure, to make a promise, a commitment, having 100,000 Black men move into stellar health and allow them to go after the dreams and wishes that they perhaps have put on the backside. I am a documentary filmmaker. I am a grandfather, great-grandfather. Just celebrated my dad's 80th with him last week, surprise birthday party, and that was great. It was great to see people gather who were for a good cause, gathering at somebody's funeral. So that was wonderful to see that last Sunday. Happy to be here.
Hey everybody, my name is Maurice Webb.
Thank you.
My name is Maurice Webb, originally from Detroit, Michigan, down in North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina. And happy to be here with the Good Fatherhood Initiative with my brother Ruben and Van. And just happy to be here and to engage in the conversation and learn and be a part of what's happening here.
Thank you. Dr. Marcus?
Yes, I'm Marcus Robinson, and I'm a published author, artist, activist, researcher, practitioner, primarily focused on human transformation, organizational change, and human thriving at scale. I'm really about people living their best lives in every way possible.
And last but certainly not least, Ruben, please.
Am I muted? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Ruben Watson, and I am 1/3 of the co-founders of the Good Fatherhood Initiative right here in North Carolina. Good morning, everyone.
The mental health toll of activism look like?
That's all right. We don't mind
And
hearing.
sorry, anybody can jump in. Or yeah,
The audio's
what
going.
does that mental health toll of activism look like? Sorry, can everybody hear me? Okay.
I can hear
Yes.
you. Yes.
Okay.
Can you repeat the
Yeah.
question?
So sorry. Just wanted to jump into the first question. What does the mental health toll of activism look? Anyone can jump in. This is just an open conversation.
I think in order to be a well-rounded activist, first of all, you need to take care of your mental health first. And you have to implement a self-care plan. You need to implement, times when you are engaged and when times when you need to take a reprieve. I mean, James Baldwin talked about the importance of vacationing, from the work, not being, avoiding the work, but taking a vacation from it and then coming back to it. And then also encouraging, our cohorts in activism to do the same. As far as like being an advocate in mental health, just encouraging each other to make sure that we know that specifically in our community that we know that our mental health is important and that we need to take care of ourselves, and using that messaging as the way to be mobile in our community by spreading the word about mental health awareness.
Sure, for sure. Anyone else want to jump on in?
I would say the toll is very heavy. It is something where, if you are a cup, you are constantly pouring into others. And unless you have, the resources or a good process in place, you need to find ways to, pour into yourself so you can stay full. So it can be taxing. I know as far as me just serving, it takes time. Sometimes I'll come home and I'm like, okay, I just don't want to talk for about 2 hours. No, not look at the TV, not be on the phone, just kind of reflect and just kind of recharge. So I didn't learn that early. I actually crashed out or burnt out, for lack of a better term, and it led to me just really reaching out to mentors to say, how do you recharge after, spending so much time investing in the community? And, I was mentoring young men at the time and just trying to like processing their trauma, so I learned to take sabbaticals from that, whether it's a weekend or a week. And it was very helpful.
You mentioned that term burnout. We're gonna get into that, but that's awesome. Anyone else want to jump in?
I also understand that like when we try to like regurgitate and learn every avenue of activism, that can be very heavy as well. We try to make ourselves subject matter experts when it's like there's somebody for that. Everybody can play into those strong suits. But I've noticed that when I try to carry everything and try to make myself the expert of everything when it comes to activism, that's when the burnout really kicks in.
100%, 100%.
I think, can you guys hear me? I'm gonna do a sound. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Anthony.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think, one of the things that I heard, I think Ruben mentioned it, or somebody mentioned it about toll, right? And a toll is pay. And I think when we start talking about what does it look like, I'm always asking myself, not only is this a toll or whatever that I'm willing to pay now, but what's going to be the cost for this long term? And I think, and a lot of times, and I have this saying where I say, does this train deserve me? I think about, like Central Station, you got all these places, and you get to decide, do I need to get on this train or not? I need to sit this one out. And I think a lot of times the burnout and all that kind of stuff comes because anybody who does this work we do it for a certain set of reasons, right? One, we're probably good at it, but it's very easy to put on the cape, and try to save the world. And I think one of the things that I keep coming back to is ego. And I think somebody mentioned something about knowing, she didn't mention ego, but she mentioned knowing about you're not a subject matter, you're not an expert in everything. And I think when you have to really work on having a healthy ego, but part of the healthy ego means I can't do everything. Let me put it this way. I can't do everything well, and I don't choose to do everything. So let me do one thing at 100% as opposed to 10 things at 40%. But our ego many times is like, and I have to check mine constantly because a lot of the stuff I've been doing for a long time, and I can do it in my sleep. I can problem solve like nobody, right? But sometimes you have to say, okay, well, this isn't my problem to solve. I just came off of a vacation for a week, and trust me, the company did not fold because they couldn't reach me. It did not fold. I didn't get any panic calls and nothing. So we have to really look at, keeping that ego in check in terms of staying away from burnout.
It also plays into not helping other people develop their strong suits, because if I'm playing everybody's part, that leaves them to feel like, where's my part to play? What's my purpose here? And that's by far one of the biggest takeaways. I had to be like, no, like you said, the company didn't collapse. Somebody else maybe got to shine that day because you were relaxed and taking care of yourself, right? Everybody has a part to play in this, and we can't play it off for everyone.
And I apologize. Go ahead. I was going to say our overarching goals as leaders, because we're all leaders in our respective spaces, is to prepare, someone else for leadership. And so if we are just inundated with, like the sister said, with being the expert with everything and doing everything, and we're not preparing someone else to take over upon our absence, regardless if it's short term or long term, then, the work that we're doing will just dissolve when we decide to walk away, or when we become so burnt out that we can't do it anymore.
Yeah. I want to end the conversation here, and
sorry, Dr. Marcus. Sorry, I just want to take a moment. We have a new panel. I want to let him introduce himself, and then we'll just jump right back to you, please. Good fatherhood. Oh, can you okay?
You just fine.
I think he might be frozen.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, Dr. Marcus. Please go ahead. I hope you didn't lose your thought. Please go ahead. When he unfreezes, I'll
see if I can't recreate it here. So I'm trying to get to this piece around trying to separate myself from having to be the know-it-all, do-it-all. Because what I've discovered is that people don't really change or transform. Things don't change based on the information set. Everybody knows cigarettes will cause you harm, but still people smoke them incessantly, right down to their leading cause of death. Now, what changes, what I'm noticing is, and it's the piece that I really wanted to get at about how to deal with the toll of activism, is the only thing that really matters is presence, is who you are being in the matter when you show up after the thing you're trying to get done. It's like, it's not about the technique or the information. It's not the doctor who's got the technique. That's not who I'm looking for. I'm looking for the healer who can heal me, who happens to have some tools that are techniques. Can you hear what I'm saying? So the activist the posture is best delivered when you take care of your human body, your emotional body, your relational aspects, your everything at home is good. When you are solid like that at the core, at the identity, at the relational piece, well, then going out into the world and advocating for others, your presence becomes the advocacy. It becomes the signal that changes things, that changes the field, that changes attitudes, that changes behavior. It won't be the smart thing. It won't be the subject matter expert thing. Full stop.
No, that's awesome, and it's in such a great perspective. And it's going to flow right into the next question. Good fatherhood. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. And please let me know your real name. And please introduce yourself to to those who are listening as we're talking about the mental health toll of activism.
My name is Van Lowery, and I am co-partnered with Ruben Watson and Maurice Webb. I am the executive director of engagement for Good Father.
You're in at a perfect time. The first question we asked was, what was the mental health toll, or what did it look like, to experience that or review what kind of mental health toll is taken on those who are in the advocacy space. Did you want to jump in on that?
Yeah. One of the men's groups that I used to run, I had to step back from doing it for when I first started. I think about a month and a half because of the bombardment of other people's traumas. It was continuous all the time, having conversations and then having to go home and alleviate that. So it definitely took a toll, and I had to step back for at least a month just to refresh myself because it was extremely overwhelming at times.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so then that transitions right into the next question, right? When does that passion for activism become psychologically harmful? And you just really segued us into that. When does the passion become psychologically harmful? And I'm going to tie in, if you have some anecdotal, scenarios to share about how you had that too. When does psychologically harmful, and share any personal stories that you've had with that.
I'll hop in and break the ice on this one. So the thing that occurs for me, I will say, is that I tend to get more committed to people's outcomes than organizations, communities, and individuals are to their own outcomes. Okay, and so that requires me to recognize, to locate people's commitment in action, commitment in behavior, and then track that, and then level set to the goal they're actually trying to achieve. Because the thing I might want for them is far greater than they can even see for themselves, and I'm striving harder, and they're just trying to I'm trying to hit home runs, and they're trying to just get to base. And so I can show them how to get to base a lot easier than hitting a home run. That's for sure. And so by right sizing that expectation, knowing where I'm at, knowing what they're at, and not overextending my commitment beyond theirs. Full stop.
I would also
awesome.
say when you just inundate yourself with, a lot of the issues that's going on. I'll give I'll use this example or space as a point of self-disclosure. So I was in Vegas over a week ago, and I was on the plane literally on Instagram, looking at the Nolan Wells case that's happening in Mississippi. And now mind you, I'm there, you go into Vegas for my cousin's wedding. So obviously I'm there for a celebratory, time. But I'm, looking at this important, story happening in real time. And so I had to make kind of like a conscientious decision like, okay, it's not that I don't care, but in an effort for me to try to enjoy myself in the space of my cousin getting married and to be amongst my family, I kind of have to take a reprieve from this so that my mind isn't saturated with this. And I think that's something that I think a lot of activists we all deal with, just always being, connected to what we're passionate about in the stories and things of that sort, but that can easily transition into hypervigilance, and sometimes you do have to take a step away from it so that your mental health won't be impacted by it.
Sure, and I'm glad that you hypervigilance, and it can also speak to anything that might have happened in our childhood. You know what I mean? If that
Mhm.
carries over into active that. Maurice, who else was going to jump in? Please feel free.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, as I'm hearing everyone talk, I think about my car that's got 230,000 miles on it. I can't wait until the oil light comes on. I got to change that oil before the oil light. I want to keep it running. And I take that principle in my walk with my work today, because when we butt up against our limits, a lot of times it's when we're in a crisis zone and we're operating from an empty cup. And it starts to create mental fatigue. A lot of junk thinking comes from being tired, being worn down, not seeing the results in a certain period of time. We become impatient. And so we have these psychological hallucinations and moments where we just find ourselves just stuck. I just learned about what is it? The name of it drops my mind, but there's a bridge in New Orleans that's 24 miles long, and they talk about highway hallucinations, and that is that you get so far out there on this bridge that you can't see what's behind you and you can't see what's in front of you, and people literally get stuck in their tracks. The end of that bridge is ahead of you, and all you have to do is keep driving, but psychologically it feels endless. And I think that's sometimes what I feel with the work that we do in our community. It feels endless, and that leaves you discouraged, and you almost sometimes want to abandon your principles for safer ground. Um, it's said that the sheriff has to come out on that bridge and lead people to the end of the bridge because they are physically stuck. And I've learned not to neglect help, assistance, and wisdom of those who have walked before me and those who are coming after me. So discouragement is a part of the journey, but we also have to be encouraged that we're continuing on, that the end is at the end. We can get there. We just got to keep going.
Beautiful.
Let me ask another question that ties into this. How do activists distinguish between a healthy commitment and an unhealthy obligation? I feel like you kind of were mentioning that, and I love the analogy or the example about the bridge. Sometimes you want to just drive off that bridge, right? It's easier to just say, let me just move away from this instead of going towards the end. And then you do need someone to lead you. You do need someone to help you say, hey, it's not that far away. You can do it. But what does that look like? How do you activists make that distinguishment between, okay, this is a healthy commitment, and this is like, whoa, this is an unhealthy sense of obligation. I'm doing a bit much.
I think when you, one of the books that has helped me is this book called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's all about, we get all these signals from our body, like, okay, you're like you were mentioning about the oil light coming on. Let's handle the problems before the oil light comes on. And most of us, we keep going and keep going. And part of it, I think, is cultural, because a lot of us, particularly folks of color and Black folks, many times we think unless we're working like an animal all day, every day, that what we're doing doesn't matter. And because we do emotional work, people will say, oh, well, that's not a real job. You're not really doing it. It's like, no, that's a lot of work, managing emotions and managing other people's emotions. And I think when we, to make the distinction, I think you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. I wrote down some things that I used before I hit the danger zone, because for many years, I didn't know. I was in a situation at a job when I was constantly, I was getting rewarded for it. I was getting told I was great at it, and people. So I'm thinking I would just keep going and keep going and keep going until the doctor said, okay, no more. and they took me off of work for time. So one of the things, so that you're talking about solutions, I just have 3 short ones I wanted to share. And so the first one, this is something I really recognized this week. The difference between running your life and doing things like a CEO as opposed to a firefighter. Many of us are running around like firefighters, just putting out one fire after the other, right? So everything is always at 10, constant. Well, CEOs don't operate that way. About people having different positions. They look at what needs to happen, they put the right people in place, and then they roll out a plan. Firefighter one to the other. The other thing is that I think many of us fall into the trap of not understanding the difference between an inconvenience and an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of things I think that we run into are inconvenient. But if everything is always an emergency, that cortisol is always pumping through your veins, the adrenaline, and I work with people in foster care, and I work with the homeless population, and I know that many times their whole lives are one emergency after the other. And I've had to learn to say, okay, is this inconvenient? Is this an inconvenience? Is this an emergency? And the big one that I saw this week, the last one I wanted to share, the big one that I saw this week when I was visiting my family in Detroit. I'm living now in Connecticut, and I went back to see my dad. We had this big surprise birthday party for him because he turned 80. And I noticed that the women in my family, my sisters, my mom, my stepmom, everybody is dealing with these stressors, right? And they're particularly around work. And I look at, whenever I think about anything, I think about, okay, if I had somebody that I love that was in this situation that I was in, what would I tell them? How would I advise them? How would I support them? Would I just let them keep, spinning? Or would I say, you need to take a step back? You need to do something different. So many times I ask myself, before the change oil light comes on, the people that I love very dearly, if they were in this situation, what would I offer? I would not say, suck it up, keep going. Now, I would do that for me, but I wouldn't necessarily do that for somebody that I care about. So my experience has been, when you look at it from that standpoint, that tells you exactly what you need to do next.
That ties into, I did a whole series about the conversation that you don't have with yourself, because I think we don't check in enough with ourselves. We are the only person with us 24/7. We know what we're thinking already, but for whatever reason, we will not just talk to ourselves. How are you feeling today? Do you actually want to go and do that? Like, is this what you're still passionate about today? And we change so much. So another thing is that, like, what we were passionate about 6 months ago, that can change. And if we are consistently thinking that, oh, well, we should be able to keep up with what we were doing 6 months ago, you're in a different season. You may have a kid now. You may have, extra responsibilities, or you may have freer time. And it's so unfair that we don't check in with ourselves and actually ask ourselves, what are we passionate about right now? What can we do right now with our schedule right now? And then it'll stop us from sitting here being like, yeah, let's do everything. Like, you couldn't run as fast as you could in 7th grade at 37. Wrap it up, right? Like, it's okay. That doesn't make you less than. You're in a different season of life, and you're more effective if you actually check in with yourself.
Yeah, and giving ourselves permission to say no, like you said, and to change your minds. Yeah, this was wonderful a year ago. I don't want to do this, and not have to justify it to anybody. I'm not doing that.
Because changing your mind is very different than changing your entire character. Like, that doesn't, and sometimes we equate the two. And that is not the same thing. And it puts us in such a heightened stress position of, well, if I say no, then they're going to say that I'm not caring this one time.
Yeah.
Right? And it's such a different pressure we put on ourselves. It's so unfair.
Right.
So unfair.
Yeah, I'm gonna join that, because it gets down to, we're talking about how we carry our stress, right? How we carry this work. And so when you talk about how we carry it, do we carry it because it's a load, and we are under load when we carry it? It compresses us, it oppresses us, it represses us, it presses us, right? And so then the key is in the foundation of the carrier. paying attention to the foundations of the carrier, of the human being, the human operator, the node that is carrying all of that weight. She is a rhythmic thing. She wants to get up at the same time and fall asleep at about the same time. She wants to eat the quality of foods that she needs to eat at the appropriate time. She wants lots of time to be away from food, even fasting as a way of keeping the body attuned. And she wants exercise. I say, and she or he, the body wants exercise. It wants it, and I'm not talking about like gym style exercise. It wants to be moved and used as humans move and use in the most naturalistic ways possible. It wants you doing stuff every day, lots of it. And when you get on a kind of a circadian rhythmic lifestyle and you set your baseline, then that's your foundation. You built to carry the load. See, we're not built that way because we don't have the correct nutritional foundations, rest foundations, interaction foundations, sleep protocols, nutritional supports. See, that's the stuff you and I want to be paying attention to, because it is the regulated human being that goes into an unregulated situation whose coherence causes the system to self-regulate because of your presence. But if you're dysregulated, when you walk into a dysregulated situation, your body's keeping count and so is theirs, and the score is being run up against y'all. And so the way you manage that, again, is by your own personal human transformation. That you, as coherent as you are, will be the baseline for the level of coherence you can bring to or resonate and insert to an incoherent situation. And when you affirm in your node and your handle, see, when you walk into this situation, when you walk into the room, who's setting the tone? Are you bringing the party? Or are you bringing the pity? You follow what I'm saying? Your vibration is what changes the room, the who you're being. And so that's why you have to, as an activist, protect that, nurture it, stay in community with each other so that we can keep each other nurtured and supported around these things, because this work was here when we got here. It will be here when we leave. It's bigger than all of us, and the forces that we are working against our legion, against our singular number. We just have to recognize what we're dealing with.
So true. Since we're already the topic, can we share how we can practically establish boundaries? So for people who are listening, for those who are listening live and those who will check in later at the rewatch, how can people set practical boundaries when they feel like they're abandoning people?
Yeah. The main thing, again, is to know what you want to contribute. When I go to the fundraiser, I know exactly how much money I'm going to spend. I know I brought my grand. That's what I'm going to spend. I might do 2 or 3 things. I'll buy a little this, a little that at the silent auction, blah blah blah. But I'm not going over the $1,000. So you sort of it's a strategic choice, not an emotional episodic choice. So you have to kind of decide what your contribution is, make your contribution, and stand apart. That's what I do.
I would also say, and it was talked about earlier, being comfortable with saying no. I tell my clients all the time, no is not just a word, it's a complete sentence. You don't need to provide an explanation as to why, or a concession, or, a negotiation. No, but I won't do it right now, but I'll do it next week. Most likely than not, if you don't want to do it now, you won't want to do it next week. So just say no. And then in the activism space, just know and understand that there are multiple ways to be activist. You can be a boots on the ground activist and violence, be connected to an organization and maybe provide some time every other week or bi-weekly, or, every first or last Saturday of the month. You can, provide donations. You can, sound off on social media about different issues that are going on just to platform what's going on. So you don't necessarily have to, I mean, it's great for everybody who enjoys being in the community space and, being engaged in the community all the time. But you don't have to necessarily do that in order to identify yourself as an activist. You can be very nuanced in your activism.
Yeah, I also would say step away. I mean, it sounds, cold, but there was a time where I was, dealing with the birth of my second son. And, my wife at the time was like, hey, I need you present for this time because of the recovery it takes. And I know, as parents, your children need to be your priority. So, I had to let my leadership team know that I was stepping away, and I stepped away for 2 years intentionally, saying, I'll be at events when I can be, but I'm going to have to step away out of this role to spend time with my family. So, and there was no guilt, no shame. I think it's sometimes you do have those thoughts, like internally, I was like, oh man, maybe I can balance it, but once those diapers got filled up and, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm on duty, I was happy I stepped away. So, knowing it's time to step back, step away, but also I would say be intentional about succession. If you can't step away, try to identify someone in the organization that could temporarily fill your role, if that can be arranged.
Absolutely. I just want to jump in to give the checks to all of that, but also I think someone had also mentioned that before, maybe that you are not the only person that everything depends on. You happen to step away, that the whole foundation falls down, that the whole organization
absolutely
can't run. So I think that's really important. But have your successor, have a plan B, have a plan C, have someone else who is either training under you or knows your job functions, because that's the quickest way for us to be complete when everything is on our shoulders. So thank you for saying that. And also, as a mom, I want to say thank you for being a Black man saying, look, help mama with the kids, okay?
Help with the kids, for sure. It's a team effort.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We'll have you on the panel soon about that, okay? Thank you. Please, I think Anthony was trying to jump in. Please go right ahead, or whoever else was trying to share.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I concur with Ruben, and I can contest to that. He just got married, and that used to be my workout partner. And since he got married, we no longer work out together because he left me for his wife and everything.
Didn't leave you.
I just wanted to concur that.
Whoa. You did good, Ruben.
Stepped away.
Good job. Good job, Ruben.
Thank you.
Look, those are healthy boundaries in practice. Absolutely. Anyone else want to share some of those practical boundaries as you're balancing activism with real life and not being overwhelmed and not feeling the guilt and shame that you're abandoning someone? Anyone else want to share some of those?
Yeah, my another mental health professional that I admire, he always says, you want to be helpful, but you want to be healthy. Like, how can you show up being helpful and healthy? And that is exactly, I feel like, what Ruben was able to do even in his home space, showing up helpful and healthy, not, yeah, I got you, I'm gonna help you with the baby, and also like, give me 5 minutes, I need to do this over here, right? The chaos that could have created within his home, his sanctuary, that would have been something that is not sustainable down the line. All for what? Exactly. And it's just like the sustainability of it all is what we have to keep in mind when we are doing this work, because like Dr. Marcus said, this will be here long before us and after us and beyond it and beyond. So the rush to do it all for ourselves right now, while also messing up things that we want to sustain long term, it's not exactly helpful. And so how can we show up helpful and healthy in the same spaces, the spaces that we also are holding very dear and high priority to us? Like, he cared about his company and cared about his home, and it was shown through his action.
Yeah, I think I heard like a nice combination between what Ms. Shaw said and what Mr. Ruben said. I think, Ms. Shaw mentioned earlier about seasons of life, right? And understanding where you are, what season am I in now, right? And the season you're in now, I know from being around children, having grandchildren, great grandchildren, that changes everything. That's a whole other that's a whole other world, right? So you can't just say we're going to do it. Like when people were, it's like when we were in COVID, right? A lot of people, when I was in COVID, I was working at an agency, and a lot of people made the mistake of thinking, oh, we're going to do everything we were doing in person. Now we're just going to switch it to virtual, and it's going to be the same. We got the same result. It's not the same. You know, things have changed. I think you have to recognize that. And one of the things that I'm really glad that you said, Mr. Ruben, was you were talking about like taking care of, you know, the second child, your second born. And one of the things I love to do, and I said this before, is many times we talk about boundaries. We run around with these long things we have to do, right? This to-do list, list stuff off. I'm a big proponent in having a list of not to do. This is what I'm not going to do. So instead of a list of things you're going to do, I'm a big proponent. Okay, here's some things we're not going to do. Like right now, like you were talking about going to the gym. Okay, well, it's hard to do that if you're taking care of a small baby in a household. I mean, people, you know, they at some point you'll either figure it out or you won't, right? But Mr. Webb is not going to, you know, drop off the face of the earth. The company you're working for is not going to fold if you take 2 years away, you know, to handle the season of your life that you're in now. So I'm really happy to see that you have taken on this process of creating a not to-do list, right? Things we're not going to do. So good.
I agree with Ruben too. Delegating down, always delegate down, because you can't. Like since myself, Ruben, and Maurice, we're all working together. When I can't fix the issue, I ask Ruben, or if Ruben can't fix the issue, we ask Maurice. Having the ability to disperse jobs out is an extreme relief, because if you get overwhelmed with all the stuff that you're doing and not have a person to just hand it off to, you're gonna overwork yourself, burn out, and yeah, it's not a good situation. So I fully agree with Ruben when it comes to having the ability to delegate down, because I've had to delegate things down when it comes to the groups that I used to do, and yeah, delegate it all downward so you don't get overwhelmed. I 100% agree.
I think that's key, right? And because, you know, we have 3 individuals who are working together constantly in an organization, I wanted to ask, right, is burnout an individual problem, or is it a symptom of an organizational unhealthy space, right? Is that burnout? I think organizational is on our own.
I think that if you are experiencing burnout and you are in an if you are individually experiencing burnout, and you are in a communal space, more likely than not, other people feel the way that you feel. And they might not have I won't say the courage, but they might not feel comfortable enough to be transparent enough to express their level of burnout. And if that is the case, then that is an organizational issue that leadership should say, okay, well, it seems to me like all of our cohorts are experiencing burnout. So let's come up with a way to streamline everything so that everyone can enjoy the work and still not feel a sense of tiredness.
I agree, but to caveat that, I'll tell you, situational. So when Ruben and I
we all know that there's no such thing as a big or a small role in a space. Everybody is an ecosystem. So everybody, plays a role in making a movement move. And so if somebody has tiredness, happening, it needs to be addressed from an organizational standpoint.
Yeah, I got some words I'd like to put on here if I could, if I'm not stepping on anybody. Well, I'm of the opinion that the vast majority of organizations are unworthy of the people who populate them, especially when it comes to agencies and businesses and institutions, generally speaking. Modernity does not do a good thing for us as a people, and it falls harsh on us. So the civilization scale stuff falls harsh on our bodies. The civic national turbulence falls harsh on our bodies. And these are organizational structures, right? These are system structures, and then we work for organizations. And even when we create our own organizations, we create them inside of the context of a civilization and a civic that is dysfunctional in organizational design. There's no way to get around it. Even if you try to create something beautiful, if you live in it long enough, you will harm a human being with it. That's just how this system is designed. And there's no, it's kind of like if you're in a bowl, that's a different kind of configuration than being in a box, right? And there's no getting boxness out of a bowl or bowlness out of a box. And we are inside of an organizational civilizational pressure zone. That's why we advocate. That's why we're advocating for our people, because the systems are coming down hard on us. And even our organizations are coming down on us. And even our own lived experience of how we navigate comes down hard on us. That's why I go back to the real fundamental work is taking care of your humanity, taking care of your physiology, and taking care of the people closest to you, because the system as it is right now, the reason why we advocate is because the pressures on us is going to crush us if we don't do anything. So that's the problem, and there's no relief from that other than compartmentalizing and saying, this is the part I can do, and I join up with others who do different parts of it. Like Ariana was saying, it's the ecology of the whole thing. I don't have to do the whole thing. I just have to hold my part of it and hold it well. And I do that by taking care of me. And I tell my kids, the number one thing you can do for the family in terms of like how you're going to contribute to the family, first, require nothing from anybody to take care of yourself. Then require yourself to be a contributing member to the others who are taking care of themselves and who cannot take care of themselves. Is to be interdependent. And so that kind of framework is what I'm holding on to. Full stop. I didn't mean to make nobody mad.
You didn't make me bad.
You said require nothing from another to take care of yourself. And what was the second part?
Be willing to contribute to the needs of those around you, especially the ones you love and care for. See, that's the key. When you say put your own mask on first, says the stewardess, right? It's the flight attendant. So when I'm whole and complete and got mine together, then the contribution I can make becomes something other than charity. Then I can give of myself as opposed to give of my treasure, give of my time. No, when I give of myself, when I put my body, my humanity, and my credibility in the mix with you, well, then something's available for you that's a way bigger than my check. No question.
That's good. Thank you.
I think two things stood out for me, Dr. Robinson, when you were talking about that. The first thing was I used to hear this saying all the time when I first started doing this work, that the best way you can help people is to not need their help. So if I show up and I haven't done the work on me or myself, I'm extremely limited in what I can offer you. I have a coach who also says, you can never, the creation can't be bigger than the creator.
That's right.
So if I'm trying to, do all this, do all, it's like the project that I'm working, like I said at the beginning, about 100,000 Black men. That's going to require me to dig very deep and change my identity and change how I do things and operate in the world. Because that's a whole different way of thinking.
Yes.
You know, it's something I haven't done before.
Yes.
So I think that's super important to realize, okay, you're only going to create what you already know, right? And wherever you are in your healing journey. The last thing is I hear people talk, and I've heard this a lot in this field, about self-care, self-care, self-care. And personally, I think sometimes we have been hoodwinked. That's the nicest way I can say it, about this whole self-care and self-care movement. I think it's necessary, but I also think it's many times highly insufficient. And what I mean by that is I think my experience has been we don't need, there's some things yoga won't fix. There's some things eating right and drinking water won't fix. You got a bad relationship with your parents or your kids, that needs to be worked out in a different way. I think many times what's needed is an exit strategy. So when we talk about boundaries, and part of that exit strategy doesn't mean I'm gonna jump up and quit my job tomorrow. It just means, okay, whatever I'm dealing with, I'm giving this a deadline, a time, like you said, full stop, a time to be done with it. I'm shutting this season down as of this date. We're not doing this way anymore. And I know a lot of times, for me, what I've learned in the last couple of years is when I have an exit strategy, whatever is menacing me, whatever is the chronic stressor in my life goes away. Doesn't mean it goes away overnight, but I have a plan for how to move through it and move it to my next season, knowing that we're not going to do this forever. It's got an expiration date. We're going to shut it down at this date. So I just taught a workshop on stress elimination. The big things that I focused on was an exit strategy. Let's give ourselves some timelines. Let's not just carry this on forever.
Because environmental stressors does play a role in our mental health. And then if we are in a very toxic environment, that does deter us from wanting to do the work, no matter how important we think our space or our place is. If we're in a place where we just don't like it, we do need to create boundaries and create, to your point, an exit strategy.
And also recognizing that whatever system we're in, I heard somebody say this earlier, like wherever you work, wherever your job is, systems are created to get particular results. So what I find, once again, for me, what I find is that if I look around in the system, and I've done this a couple of times, the system that I'm involved in wants to create this set of results. And I'm not okay with that set of results. And I don't run the company. I need to make a plan for, okay, well, what am I going to do? How long am I going to put up with this? Because they're not going to change. They're happy. We're getting the exact results they've set up the system to get. So then it's up to say, okay, I need to walk away and either A, find a system that I like, or B, create one of my own choosing. But this here where I am now, no, we're not doing this anymore. No, thank you.
Yeah. Treat those job and professional opportunities like Ubers that actually pay you to convey you from the place you're in now to the next place that you're going. That these are vehicles for you to move your life forward as you navigate your mission, your vision of what you're trying to accomplish in the world as a visionary or as an activist. And then you choose organizations that most closely do the work that you want to get done in the world, and so that when you give your life to them, that that it's a fair exchange. They're actually doing what you want to get done anyhow, with organizational capacity to do that. How did that go down like that? Anyhow, yeah.
We can still hear you, Dr. Marcus. We can still hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So, anyway, I'm really thinking that that when you identify yourself as, I am that I am one who makes a difference in the world. I mean, you just decide that for yourself, that you claim that as your kind of your identity space. That's the ground you stand on. And then you create projects and opportunities for you to express yourself, to do that thing. Those expressions, they'll become the storylines of your life. Now, the opportunity is to create storylines that far exceed the current game you're playing today. I'm playing the game today, author, researcher, practitioner, and this is the vehicle to take me to the next place called, category architect of a whole new way of thinking and doing something that hasn't even existed yet. Now, the if I didn't have that vision or mission personally, I'd be like easily attracted to other people's visions and missions and goals, organizational stuff, getting jobs. Like they say, if you're not doing your own mission and goals and vision, chances are you are working on somebody else's and contributing to that. So you just want to be certain that what yours is, and then what the other is doing, so that you can choose alignment, as Anthony was talking about. You can choose to be there, or if they move in a direction that's counter to the mission and goals that you have, you can choose out. It's like my mother used to say to me, she was a maid most of the time, and then then worked in nursing, that kind of stuff. And she'd tell her bosses all the time, I was looking for a job when I found this place. That's how she held her employer. She says, I hired you to pay me to do the piece of work. I came and interviewed you to see if you were the one that was worthy of me giving my life to it for the few dollars I'm going to get in return for it, because I know what I'm going to get for it. I just want to know if you're worthy of it. Now, that's a lesson that woman taught. She had a 12th grade education. I got 2 PhDs. That wisdom was priceless.
Absolutely.
Full stop.
Priceless wisdom, and it should be the narrative that we're going forward with, right? Like, is this organization, is this space equipped and qualified to nurture us in the way we need to be nurtured? Do you have those?
That's right. That's the question. Are you worthy of me giving my life energy to you? And then if the answer is yes, well, then you got yourself a great employee, and I got myself a great organization. Mm-hmm. Simple as that. I don't know what's going on with my gear, so there you go. Mm-hmm. Full stop. Oh, yeah.
Should we go to the next question?
Well, I think the opportunity, if you guys can see me, I guess
we see you now.
Something going on here. Then I think the opportunity is for us to decide, or at least to have a conversation for what could you most use as an activist today to help you make the most of your opportunity. What one thing that you need that would help you manage your stress, set boundaries, and have you be more capable of making the difference you want to make?
Something that I think goes like beyond the walls of the work that we do are the communities that we create for ourselves, you know, where we get nurtured and filled up by people that have our interests, that we can be transparent with, because sometimes your workplace isn't exactly where you can be that person, or you don't even want to be that person. You want to go in, do your good work, and then go back to your people and have a good time, etc. So I think that's very important. Something that I do with my clients often, we do a values assessment. We try to make goals based off of those values, keeping yourself energized, because once you're doing things that you value and that you hold dear to your heart, it's a lot easier to show up in spaces where the work may be a little bit challenging, or where, you know, every story that we come in contact, especially doing the work that we do, we are not hearing great stories every day. And so you need to make sure that outside of the work that you're doing, you're getting the help that you need to be that person, you know, to where you can able to show up correctly. So for me, it's going to always be my routines outside that I need to keep me in this game for real.
Yeah. And to expound upon that, just like the value of mentorship and being in a space with someone who truly has your best interest at heart. Because I know from my experience, unfortunately, there are people who are fellow activists or identify themselves as activists, and they'll help you, but they have a problem with seeing you um, excel beyond their expectations. It's like, do well, but don't do as well as me or better than me. And so, you know, I think that it's important for, you know, us to be aligned with people who look at us as it was mentioned in the conversation, as successors. Like, you know, allow what I'm telling you to resonate within you so that you can go forward and continue on with the legacy of activism, and then, you know, implement that into somebody else. Because, you know, we have to, our successors are supposed to be better than us. And I think that, you know, when people come to that understanding, and specifically in the activism space, the better off they'll be, and there won't be so much territorialism there.
There you go. I'm back.
I think they mentioned that we're wrapping up. I just think that succession is good. I think and what Anthony mentioned, Mr. Anthony, in regards to an exit strategy, is something that'll be helpful. You know, our organization is focused on fatherhood, but one thing we didn't mention was the good is actually named after a brother that, you know, had a relationship, a colleague who actually had taken his life, but he was very well known in the community. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, you know, sometimes burnout can lead to severe consequences and severe decisions. And it's so important for us to be intentional about our exit strategy and those setting firm boundaries so we can maintain the mental health we need to serve others. So.
That's a good word, Ruben. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any closing comments for the rest of you folks as we wrap this up?
I would just say just to continue to be encouraged that the work that we do is necessary, it's important, and that this journey is not intended to be easy, but we will overcome if we stay in it and work through it as a collective. I'm big on unity and working together with my brothers and sisters versus trying to compete with them. So I love the conversation, and I'm thankful to be here.
I've appreciated getting to talk with you all about how to show up better for our community and better for ourselves. And I just encourage everybody to have those talks with yourselves. Please check in with yourself. Yourself is begging to talk to you, wants to know how you're doing, how you're feeling. Even if you think you know how you're feeling, you might realize you don't like this stuff that you do. So sometimes y'all really check in. And yes, love yourself. This is your one life. You have one life to do it all. So check in, allow yourself to change, allow yourself to grow, allow help, be transparent, and let's do this good work.